Right, guys, so we're back with another revision story, this time for 1.3, putting a business idea into practice. Now, remember, this is just more of a light-hearted approach to your revision. Of course, there's a number of key calculations you need to understand within this topic area, so we'll need to look at those separately beyond this lesson. But nevertheless, this should help to actually provide a real structure to the way in which you revise. And if you really get to know these stories well and test yourself on them, they certainly will aid your memory. So let's have a little run through of what we've got here. So this is now 1.3, putting a business idea into practice. So we've got two friends who are best friends. They've known each other for many years and have played football for a long, long time together. Every day they would do the daily commute into Southampton. One worked as a financial controller and the other was an accountant. And they were well paid, both earning over £50,000 per year. Yet they weren't fulfilled in their life and they wanted to actually pursue their own business plans. And they had noticed the growing trend towards gourmet-style burgers that focused upon the quality as well as the speed of service. Now, based on this model, they began to experiment by running a stall cooking burgers, which helped them to actually refine their product range and test it on the public so that they could actually get feedback from customers and understand whether there was potential for their business to actually take off. So they eventually decided to start up their own business as a high-quality burger bar. So they invested £60,000 of their own personal savings, together with £40,000 coming from friends and family. These sources of finance really helped to avoid any interest cost that would have been incurred had they actually gone to the bank for a loan at this stage. And so they opened their first branch of 7 Bone restaurants in 2014. They had clear financial and non-financial goals. The financial objectives included survival, profit, increased market share, and they also hoped to repay the £100,000 within the first year. While the non-financial objectives included personal satisfaction, independence, challenge, control, and the opportunity to work together. Their longer-term aim was to have a chain of restaurants across the southern counties. They believed they could get 10 restaurants set up within a 5-year period. Very clear goal that they had actually set themselves to achieve. They were more ambitious goals than most businesses set, but the entrepreneurs calculated their monthly break-even target of £10,800 or £2,700 per week. So they set themselves clear weekly targets to attain based on an average meal spend of £10. This meant they needed 270 customers per week. Yet burgers can be cooked quickly by relatively inexperienced and cheaper chefs to actually employ. The variable cost per unit of each burger that's actually made is relatively low, while the price is relatively moderate in terms of actually providing a unit contribution. The burger bar model really did seem to work. Meanwhile, the turnover of tables is quite fast because orders can be served quickly. People eat their meals relatively quickly. They don't generally stay around for dessert, and they're off and up and out of there. That means that more customers can come in to actually take on the tables, so you can actually serve a relatively high volume of customers fairly quickly. And after redesigning their restaurants and reformulating their recipes, they finally launched. On the day of the business launch, they struggled to keep up with customer demand, serving 120 customers on their very first day. 1 month later, sales had risen to £10,000 per week, smashing their £2,700 weekly break-even currency target. This represented a very healthy monthly margin of safety of 7,200 customers. This gave the lads a full year revenue forecast of £500,000 from this one restaurant. This large cash inflow and positive net cash flow supported the boys with a bank loan application. This enabled them to actually use debt to actually set up their second outlet. Now, 5 years later, the boys have multiple outlets all across the southern counties. Now, this revision story was, of course, about Seven Bone Burger that featured on the Restaurant Man a few years ago. Now, we can see some really key principles to actually revise here, and they include each of the following key learning points. And again, make sure that you actually go into detail on looking in each of these, understanding those business aims and objectives. They're relatively straightforward, but you've got to be clear when it comes to your revenue calculation, your costs, your fixed costs and your variable costs, as well as being able to calculate interest. What about profit calculations? Again, we'll look at all of this, but these are some really key points to take away from this unit overall. What about break even overall? Cash and cash flow. And then we've got sources of business finance. Examiners love to ask questions on sources of business finance. So we've seen in the short term, it could be about overdrafts and trade credit. In the longer term, we've got these options. Now, loans are often used as the terminology often used when it comes to loan finance is debt finance. So just remember that. Now, go back over this story, test yourself. How much can you remember? Then test yourself in a few days and expand on the actual story. See if you can actually put down the calculations for things like break even and break even in currency and so on. Great stuff, guys. See you next time.